Hey guys, welcome back. So we talked about these, but we didn't solve. So LM is 18, NO is 4. This has been already called X, and LN is 10. So these are kind of like the side splitters. We can set them 18 over X is equal to 10 over 4, cross multiply to solve. So we get 10X and 18 times 4. All right, so I divide by that, and I get 7.2. Final answer. So what about these? These kind of set up the same way. So some of the classes we set them up, but I think we left it to solve. So let's see if you got the same answer if you set this up and solved on your own. So 15.4 over 7.7 should be equal to X over 4.4. So we get 7.7x is equal to 15.4 times 4.7. $72.338. Okay, so now let's divide. X is 9.4. Cool. Okay, so most students, most classes I was able to get this to this question. Not everybody I was. So we had, this is 45, this is 90. So we should be able to kind of mentally figure this out that that's 45. So this isn't any old triangle. It's an isosceles triangle. So these two have to be the same size. So I'm going to call them both X. Okay. So we have a squared plus b squared is c squared. We have a right triangle. We can use Pythagorean theorem to solve. So x squared plus another x squared is 24 squared. That's a squared plus b squared is c squared. Interesting though, we have a 2x squared. That's how many x squareds we have. And 24 times 24 is 576. So we continue. We divide by 2 on both sides and the 2's cancel. And we get 576 divided by 2 is 288. So our final answer would be the square root of 288. However, it says simplify in radical form. So if you were in class, some students, that was a student that helped me, some students kind of did it this way. They said 288 has a 16 in it. So 288 is 16 times 18. So the square root of 16 times the square root of 18 should equal the square root of 288. Other students saw that a 9 was in there. So the square root of 9 times square root of 32 would also equal that. So these are just two methods we talked about. Either way, you should get this same decimal, which is equal to our answer. Okay, so now let's use Pythagorean theorem to solve. So this looks like order the sides least to greatest. This would be our A, B, and our C. So you have 6 and 8. And then my c squared. Interesting, right? So if I take the square root of both sides, c is 10. Okay. What about this one? I can't tell which one is small and medium, but lucky for you, it doesn't matter which one is A or B. You still should get the same answer, but you definitely have to put the longest side over here. So 10 squared plus B squared is 13 squared. Okay, so now we have an algebra problem. I'll subtract 100 on both sides. I get B squared is equal to 69. So I'll take the square root of both sides and get b is equal to the square root of 69. Now I think it says, it doesn't really say, so I could leave it like that or turn it into a decimal. Okay, let's take a look at this one. Oh, it's another one of these isosceles triangles. That's 45, 45, 90. So if that's 3 times the square root of 2, that's 3 times the square root of 2. So A and B actually are the same number. A and B are the same number, and C is the hypotenuse. So let's use Pythagorean theorem to solve. So the first side squared plus the second side squared has to equal this hypotenuse squared. So what does this mean? Well, an exponent means take that stuff by itself twice. So this is the same as saying this. And that would be the same thing too, right? Now we know in math, if all I'm doing is multiplying, so right here, all I'm doing is multiplying. I can multiply in any order. So I could do the 3 times the 3 and get the 9. And then the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, let's do that off to the side. Square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is actually the square root of 4, which we know is 2. So the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is the same as the square root of 4, which we know is 2. So I'm going to rewrite that 2. And the same thing would happen over here. We would be adding 3 times 3 and the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, which happens to be 2. And we get c squared. So I end up getting 18 plus 18 equals c squared, and 18 plus 18 is 36. So I'm feeling good here. If I take the square root of both sides, c is 6. c is 6. 2 more. Okay, so let's make this, we can call it A, B, and C, order the sides least to greatest. Let's solve for A. So A squared plus B squared is C squared. A squared we don't know. B is 15, so B squared is 15. Yeah, and then 17 squared. I think this is a special one too. So 15 times 15 is 225, right? And 17 times 17 is 289. And we still have that part. So when we subtract 225, we get 64. Ooh, this is special. This is a special one. I take the square root of both sides, and A is 8 times 8 is 64. So A is 8. All right, great job, guys. One more. So we're going to order the sides least to greatest, A, B, C. So we go 10 squared, 14 squared, c squared. Let's use Pythagorean Theorem to solve for c. 14 squared is 196. So we get 296 is c squared. So let's take the square root of both sides. And so our final answer is the square root of 296. So the square root of 296 is a decimal. Okay, so either answer is okay. But as I keep telling you, I'm always going to take a little opportunity to show you how to reduce fractions. So I'm going to look in here, and I'll show you how. I'm going to look in here for a perfect. So it is even. So let's see, 296 divided by 16 is a decimal. So there's no 16 in there. Let me try 9. 296 divided by 9, that's a decimal. So 296 divided by, oh no, what would be a perfect? 296 divided by 4. Okay. What if I did 296 divided by 64? Decimal. Okay, so the only one I found is 4, so I'm just going to go from there. Okay, so 296 is the same thing as the square root of 4 times the square root of 74. Okay, but then 74 is still even, so there's probably maybe a perfect still in there. So let's divide 74 by 2 and see what we get. Ooh, 37. So the square root of 74, believe it or not, it doesn't look like it's in simplest form, but the square root of 74 is the square root of 2 times the square root of 37, and 37 is prime. So we do not have 2 of a kind to pull out. We don't have a perfect in there. So that is as simple as it gets. So the square root of 4 would be 2, and this would be our final answer. Now let's double check that with the calculator. So what is the square root of 74? It's 8.60233. And then if I multiplied it by 2, I get that same answer, 17.2. So I have confirmed this is also the decimal 17.2. So this is the simplified version of that. Great job. Keep studying. I'll see you next time.